October 31st, Friday, mind you. Interesting, right? 2025. At least made it to this far, so that's nice. Anyways, we will be looking at Bellicor. All that shiny glory. I had been playing this since it came out, so I'm really fond of it, and I've tried to, tweak it all along the way to get it better as much as I can. So, but yeah, Bellicor, he already kind of draws you cards on his first ability, and then the Torment ability does basically demons for Warstorm Surge, or Warstorm Surge for demons, whatever. And so that kind of comes into play when you start like mass reanimation or anything like that. But so we got our mana rocks first, and got Arcane Signet, Gilded Lotus. They're not quite in order. But this is pretty good, even though you might think it's not. Good amount of mana rocks are necessary usually, and since this produces color options, then you're able to, kind of, because people, like in this deck particularly, I play Vandal Blast. So you always need mana rocks. They do help when you get the chance. And if you are able to keep enough of them going, you can keep ramping. But yeah, you always have to be careful of Vandal Blast type effects. But then Urza's Incubator for a reduction cost on them, which we have the Slanesh Demon for that as well. Mana Vault, like I said, goes good with Mortarion. Soul Ring, Hex Core, another pretty, or Thran Dynamo, another pretty good mana rock for its cost, its value. Liquid Metal Torque, like I said, I like Liquid Metal Torque. It's kind of my go-to with it's a rock, and it can boost the effect of Sculpting Steel, so that's nice. Then we got our tutors, a variety of kinds. Entomb for one of them, Imperial Seal, Demonic Tutor, Buried Alive. Usually you want, like, with Buried Alive, the good options are Bloodthirster and, well, Archfiend of Despair is, you want Archfiend of Despair effects and a way to do damage. So I've won often with Archfiend of Despair and Bloodthirster attacking in unison, doing successive multiple damage per turn that way. It's pretty good way to go about it. But Vampiric Tutor, and then we got card draw, Black Market Connections. It also, of course, gives you ramp as well, and other Changeling Demons if you need them. Velcro Awakening, MDFC for card draw, kind of to refresh your hand if you didn't get something you like. But yeah, the One Ring. Probably going to see some of these cards already again because I didn't buy doubles of cards. So I might still be collecting in the future to mitigate the proxies necessary to facilitate everything, although I have a copy of each thing, and I know there's this new variety of way of building commander stuff called that Quill something or another that one gentleman figured out, stamping your sleeves with stickers to kind of flush through, but I think that takes too long. And plus, if some friends wanted to play and they didn't have cards, now I have 4 decks that people can play with. Some will have proxies for the time being, and eventually at some point I can hopefully get the remainder of the secondary cards I need. Just, so a table of friends can sit down and at least play with the decks I have if they want to. But, and braids. Sometimes you can sacrifice stuff in this deck, and like the changeling, for instance, you can get more card draw off of that or whatever, or sacrifice the treasures for card draw, something, It's braids is always good. I wish I had the Japanese. I had the Japanese version for a while, but I had to go and get some money back out of it, although it increased in price, so I really lost money in the sense, but it is what it is. Ristic Study, I think. Yeah, Ristic Study, pay the 1. The Force of Will. Negate. Counter non-creature. Fierce Guardianship. You need ways, once you get Bellicor out, people, just like Shieldred, most people target your commander, so you need ways of, protecting him as best you can. So the free counter spells, Fierce Guardianship, Deflecting Swat, Force of Negation, things like that are necessary to keep him around. But yeah, so for Fierce Guardianship, Deflecting Swat, Force of Negation, Mana Drain, Counterspell, Arcane Denial, another Counterspell. Then we get into removal, so Damnation, Board Wipe, Fell the Profane, I was talking about that. But being that it's an MDFC, it's really good, and it doesn't have to come into play tapped is nice. So yeah, better than the first one they printed that was black. Blasphemous Act, Board Wipe, Mana Blast, like I was saying, Board Wipe, in a sense, for at least mana rocks or artifacts in general. Deadly Relic, free targeted removal if you get that way. Cyclonic Rift, another Board Wipe, one-sided, pretty good. Ashes to Ashes. I think this is pretty good. 3 for 2 and 5 life. You can get life back in this deck, so I'm not too worried about that. And being able to exile 2 permanents is pretty good. Cardur, Doom Scourge, basically is like, in a sense, another One Ring type effect. It allows you to protect yourself for a turn and have everybody else deal with themselves. And then you get some other additional benefits, especially if you are able to reanimate him, bring him back out of the grave multiple times. You can get that additional protection from him. Great Unclean One, talked about cloning him a lot. There's clones after this as well. And I had a pet card in here that I tried. I was only ever able to pull it off on Moxfield, and it happened randomly, but Rite of Replication on a Great Unclean One to me is the funniest thing ever, quite honestly. So, although it being 6 mana and a one-time deal is just not really good enough to keep it in the deck, obviously. So, but it's just a funny thing to Rite of Replicate a Great Unclean One, and then at the end of turn he just makes 3 more Great Unclean Ones, hopefully, and it just keeps going and going and going, and it's exponential. It's funny. But here, the Bloodthirster, so definitely good to give him lifelink. He already has Trample, so that's one thing. But being able to attack all the players and get life like that, that's really good. Archfiend of Despair, you want to get as many effects as you can from Archfiend, so the other types of demons that do that you'll see here in a second, and then cloning him to or Roaming Throne, another one, to double the effect so that it just really drains opponents fast. Pink Horrors, mainly for bodies, sacrificial bodies. You get the what's that red mana goblin dude that does 2 damage? You get kind of like his similar effect for casting instant sorcery, dealing 2 damage and stuff. Lord of Change, not really good technically for the mana cost, the ward's pretty alright. The draw 3 cards and not losing any life is pretty good, so reanimating him is always pretty nice. He's not the worst thing. I wish they would have improved him a little bit, like at least 1 less mana would have been nice. I don't know why he's 7 mana necessarily, but whatever. Roaming Throne, like I said, kind of reminds me of The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Sentinels. Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch. I like it because it recurs instants and sorceries. When your graveyard starts getting too full, though, he's not as effective as you'd like. But early game, sometimes if you like played a demonic tutor or whatever, even to get him and then play him out, and then you get the demonic tutor back next turn and play it again, is not a bad option. And then you ping people with the other effect. Bloodletter of Alkazatz. My bad. Forgot I had left that on. But yeah, Bloodletter of Alkazatz. They also have a fire alarm that's not acting correctly in here, so it's continually beeping. But anyways, Mortarion, we talked about him. Probably at some point, my showcase of my Shieldred deck wasn't quite as up to par as I'd like, so maybe come January, around my birthday again, I'll give an update on that and go from there. I'm not sure, but so Mortarion, Plague Drone. Plague Drone works with defending against Heliod combos and stuff like that, because they can't gain the life, they lose it instead. So I really do like Plague Drone as an option for that. It's saved me a couple times. And then we get into the clones. Saw in Half, again, great on clean one, or even like Sawing in Half. Sakashima of 1,000 Faces to get more clones of Bellicor, which really works out well. Spark Double, again, to do the same thing. Rite of Replication, so I know people who've told me the math and stuff like that, and what people say. I looked it up. It does, when you clone Bellicor, 126 damage, because the first Bellicor sees 5 other Bellicors coming in, 6 damage apiece, that's 30, and then 1 Bellicor enter, and then it kind of goes like 1 Bellicor enters and sees 4 other Bellicors enter, so that's 4 times 6, and then basically it's 4 times 6 4 times, I think. But I've done I did the math on a piece of paper, and it did come out to 126. Kind of, you gotta look at it for yourself if you want. But yeah, it's a really good way to be a game finisher, because likely you'll get to the middle of the game and then you'll have an option to play this and then be able to remove the rest of their life total. So, and of course, there's always Sculpting Steel and a Phyrexian Metamorph, Glasspool Mimic, MDFC. I don't like that it comes into play tapped, but it's definitely a pretty decent clone regardless. Like I said, life gain, so Morgul Knife, Shadow Spear. And then we have some protection and haste, really, is what we needed out of this, because casting a demon and having it just sit there and not be able to do what it needs to do because it doesn't have haste. Although somewhere, I wonder where the Herald of Slaanesh went. My cards are kind of stuck together. Oh yeah, Miss Herald of Slaanesh back here, stuck on. But yeah, so he gives haste to all your demons as well, which is nice. But you need a little bit more than just looking for him. So I put in Swift Boots. It also gives protection, so that's not bad. And then Lightning Greaves, again, 0 cost to equip, so that's good. And then Haste and Shroud. And another thing, lifelink kind of is a necessity at some point because Be'lakor drains you when you draw cards with him, and he's one of the main sources of card draw. Not necessarily you have to rely on it, but so I like Whip of Erebos for the lifelink effect, and then if you want to risk the reanimation with it, you can, but if it gets down to the nitty gritty, but I definitely think the life gain is superb for this deck. I had initially had Exhume in place of Dance of the Dead, and I know Dance of the Dead brings a creature tapped, but Exhume actually lost me a game once, and it's because I wasn't quite aware of the situation, unfortunately, so whatever, but I decided to replace it with this because you do need a healthy bit of reanimation. People will go out of their way to, kill them as best they can. Victimize, another reanimation type effect. Living Death, a board wipe, and reanimation in one. Malachor Rebirth, kind of just a recursion in a sense. It's kind of a safety net catch. It's not foil. I had a foil one. I don't know where it went, though. Reanimate, of course. Animate Dead, of course. Incarnation Technique. I mean, this is the Ghostbuster version, so I thought that was fitting. And Agadeem's Awakening. This is coming in handy, too, because of the different converted mana cost X or less statement. So it usually gets a lot of creatures back, which is good. Cards are sticking together. Bogart Trawler, Grave Removal. He is a goblin. It's kind of whatever. But at least you have the option to not have it come in tapped. And some more Graveyard Removal. Soul Guide Lantern. You guys know I love me Soul Guide Lantern. I think it's a really great card for grave removal. So is Stone of Eric. So I had the Demon Spider Shelob in here, but she is moderately okay, I think. But for 4 mana and the effects being so-so, I felt like a 1 mana Stone of Eric is a better option, honestly. But Bajuka Bog, more Graveyard Hate, and then this gets into the rest of the lands of the deck. Phyrexian Tower, Sacrifice Outlet, dual land technically has a very limited restriction, so it's pretty good. Islands, and you can check my Moxfield link to see the specifics, but I think there's only 12 basics in here, or 9, something like that, but yeah. So Island, Dead Marshes, Urborg, Forbidden Orchard, Ancient Tomb, Volrath Stronghold. This is kind of strange because when I bought this, it was $120, and now it's gone down to $100. So I'm not really sure why that's the case. But Watery Grave, Shockland, Mana Confluence, Swamp, Urza Saga, to find like Soul Ring or Morgul Knife, one of those, something like that. It's good to have an Urza Saga. Swamp, Mountain, Island, Dual Land, with the opponent restriction. I don't know what they call that necessarily, but Mountain again. Mycosynth Gardens, another cloning option for artifacts. Command Tower, Shockland, Island, Swamp, Path of the Dead, Cavern of Souls, protect the demons from counterspells. City of Brass, just fix the mana just right, so I'm not struggling if I come down to it. Reflecting Pool, the same. And another island, another swamp, an Academy Ruins to return any destroyed artifacts. Lazatep Quarry, mainly as a sack outlet. Another opponent restricted dual land. And that's it. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you have a good Halloween. And try to see you around. I don't know what I'll be doing or what's gonna happen, but try to make it to my next birthday, right? All right. Peace.